Okay, welcome. You with New Levels Coach Matt Long, and I am going to spend no more than 5 minutes taking you through this Friday's New Levels track session, letting you know what we've got in store for you as and when you come. It's called the Oregon Gold Session. Why? It's named after Jake Wightman, who in 2022, in the famous venue of Hayward Fields in Oregon, took the World Championship gold medal by beating the resounding favourite Jakob Ingebrigtsen of Norway. That's a famous race. It's going back 3 years now, or almost 3 years, 3 summers ago. You might remember it, not for Jake or not just for Jake, but his father was the stadium commentator, Jeff Wightman. As Jake came through the line, the camera pans to Jeff on the gantry in the stand, who says, "That's my son. I coach him. And he's the world champion." Amazing. So what we're going to do today is to bring the type of session alive that Jake affected with his father, Jeff. So the session is as follows. 4 by 4 minutes. What could be simply, I hear you saying? But the devil is in the detail. Within those 4 minute blocks, you are going to run 90 seconds at some point at 8 out of 10 rate of perceived exertion. 60 seconds at 9 out of 10 rate of perceived exertion. And no less than 30 seconds flat out, 10 out of 10 on our RPE scale. But the good news is, that's the bad news. The good news is, in between those blocks of work, those surges at differential paces, you get a 30-second float. So it's not quite a recovery, it's part of the interval itself, but you're doing a less intense phase of work. And the coaching team, which will include myself, are going to randomize the order in which you do those 60 seconds, 90 second, 30-second blocks. The good news also is you will get a generous, passive mode of recovery, 3 minutes to get yourself back from wherever you finish on the Paula Radcliffe track, back to the start point so you can start the next rep. Okay, why do that session? Why not simply do 4 by 4 minutes at a single pace? Well, you get more bang for your buck. You get more bang for your buck physiologically when you learn to change pace, when you learn to move through the gears. If you want, don't trust me, if you want the intellectual foundations of this and the coaching pedagogy of this, go to a very famous book written exactly 20 years ago. Dave Sunderland, a late great national coach in middle distance, wrote a very famous book, High Performance Middle Distance Running. Go and have a look at what he said about the notion of tired surges, where you surge and you float and then you surge again. That's what we are going to be doing. Jeff Wightman himself has said, Jake's coach, every race is won by the athlete who changes pace the best. Whether it's a world championship or Olympic 1500 meters, or whether it's dashing down the finishing funnel as you head towards park run to hand your barcode and your token in. That's what matters. You've got to be able to change pace within whatever runs or races you do. So this is a form of, again, we've used this before. It's the late, great British Milers Club founder, Frank Horwell, called this multi-tier training, multi-pace training. We're doing a little bit of that. Why the float element? Well, again, go to another great coach and a great coach educator based in Oregon, great mentor to myself, Peter J. Thompson, talks on his wonderful website, the New Interval Training, talks about the physiological benefits of floating recoveries, rather than passive recoveries, because he talks about what G.A. Brooks, I think a doctor in the mid-80s, spoke about, and he frames it as the lactate shuttle, the ability of the body to use lactate as a productive energy source. So again, in the associated article I've got on this, I cite Peter Thompson, who talks about lactate dynamics training, interspersing more intense with less intense periods during an interval itself. That's what you're going to be doing there. Common mistakes to look out for as I come to an end. Don't run all the blocks at work at one continuous pace. Don't get into a plod. Yeah, try and move up and down the gears. So hold yourself back in the first rep or two. Secondly, Some of you may find that you're running a little bit, the efforts are running a little bit too hard. Maybe the 8 out of 10 has crept up to a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10. And again, you won't be able to float those recoveries. What does float mean? It's not something you record on Strava. A float means you're moving biomechanically more like an easier run than a jog. What we don't want you to be seeing on the track is for you to do a 30-second effort and then have your hands on your knees panting. And to walk for 20 meters and then to break into a quick shuffle. That's jogging. That's understandable, but you're running too hard if you're doing that. We want to see you just regressing the pace of you running down to an easy run, what we call a float or a roll-on mode of recovery. So have a think about that. Have a think about the questions I've asked you in the article, which you can get hopefully from the website. Why should I make sure that I'm running at 8, 9, and 10 out of 10 RPE? Why not just everything at 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10 or whatever? Secondly, how can I ensure that I'm maintaining faithfulness to the principle of floating those 30-second recoveries rather than jogging? And then thirdly, have a think. The whole idea of the Friday night track sessions is that you take the philosophy of the session and incorporate bits of it back into your own training with your own club, with your own personal coach or whatever. So what elements of the tired surge and what elements of lactate dynamics training, what elements of Jake Wightman's work can you take and apply to you? So it's not copying a direct session that he did, it's applying those principles. So I really do hope that little briefing has helped you. Look forward to seeing you all on Friday night.